Welcome to RPG Book Club. On today's episode, we go to space, we have giant robots, there's a naked girl, there's explosions.
Welcome to the RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Michael Spiffle-Webbin.
I am Sam Allman.
And I'm Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
And today we'll be starting a brand new game.
Meow, 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 meow.
Y'all know what it is. It's Xenogears. But before we get started, those sound effects were apropos for this game. Before we get started, how y'all doing?
I'm doing pretty good. So, fun fact, this is the second time that me and Spiffle will be recording this episode in its entirety. Not because we lost the recording, but because I had several technical difficulties that made editing the last episode take like 2 weeks. So I was like, well, since we haven't put the other episode up and Eli's back from vacation, why don't we just start over? So we did. So here we are. We're doing it one more time just for you guys.
You know what? Let's do it again next week.
Yeah, let's just keep doing it.
What if every episode of this podcast is just the first 6 chapters of Xenogears over and over? We do it over and over.
It's a Groundhog Day, the podcast.
Eli, how was your vacation?
Oh, it was good. I'm very sunburnt. So the vacation was my parents coming in town. I think I talked about this a little bit. And so we went and did a whole bunch of Texas stuff. And last Wednesday, my dad and partner and I all went tubing down the San Marcos River. And it was great until we remembered we forgot sunscreen, like halfway down the river. Not fun. Yeah. Halfway down the river. And I'm like, I'm feeling crispy. So
and you're
yeah.
stuck on a river, so like, what are you going to do about it?
Right, exactly. I'm very burnt from that because I am like ghostly white does not even begin to describe how white I am. And I pretty much just burn and peel. So I'm in that great peeling stage where it hurts all over and everything is bad right now. And hopefully in another week I'll be fine. But we had a good time. It was nice seeing my parents. By the end of the week, I was like, I think I've had enough of my parents. And then I dropped them off at the airport, and we said goodbye. And I got back in the car, and we started to leave. And I immediately went, I miss my parents. So if that tells you anything about the relationship I have with my parents, but I'm gonna see them again at Christmas because we have to go up to West Virginia. My sister's having a baby, so I want to be there for that. And, it was a good time.
First baby?
What?
Is that your sister's first baby?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Exciting.
I'm going to be an uncle for the first time, and I'm really excited. I'm less excited about the fact that my sister's baby is going to be named after her husband. So, whatever, patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. I guess one of us in the family has to uphold it. Whatever. I'm not super thrilled about it, but we'll it's their choice.
At least they're not naming it something that'll get him like made fun of in school or something. Like,
his first name is Jasper.
Oh wait, that's okay.
Never mind.
That's bad. I thought my husband had like a regular person name.
Yeah, I thought it was bad just because patriarchy, not bad because patriarchy and stupid name.
Wait, so your sister's like, man, what a great name. We can't let this one slide into the dustbin of history. We got to keep this name.
Yeah, what's great is that the nickname that all of her husband's friends have come up with for him is Gassy. Which my sister, like, as soon as they started going out, was like, that's not going to fly. And she started calling him Purr. That's
still a bad name.
Yeah, this kid is not going to have any good nicknames. Like, I'm hoping he goes by his middle name, which is going to be Anthony. But his initials are G-A-G, Gag.
Gag.
Yeah, so, I'm feeling a little bad for future nephew.
A little gaggy. Gassy Gaggy.
Gassy Gaggy. Oh, God. I hope my parents never listen to this podcast. They would murder me.
Poor Anthony.
I can always feel comfortable
exactly.
that my parents will never listen to this podcast.
Yeah. I can't even get my wife to listen to this podcast. There's no way my parents will listen to this podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that was my week. I also started watching American Horror Story, which is awesome. If you're into horror stuff, like, fucking watch it.
What season do you start with?
I started with the first. We watched Murder House. We binged Murder House while we were on vacation, and then Ken and I have since watched all the way through Asylum and Coven.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I love Coven. That is absolutely my favorite season so far.
I think the most recent season is Coven 2.
Yeah, my mom was saying it's going to be like a crossover between Murder House and Coven.
Oh. Yeah. I actually, hated Murder House with my entire soul.
Murder House was really hard to get through because it was like everyone is terrible to show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it sucked and was dumb, but then I watched 2 episodes of Asylum and was like, wow, this is immediately 50 times better. And then I didn't keep watching. But I could tell that it was a lot better. So I understand why people like the show, because it definitely is not all Murder House.
Yeah. Murder House is a little bit hard to get through, but once you get through all of those, and I mean, technically it's not even required watching because every season it's its own contained thing.
Yeah, exactly. If I was meeting a person and they wanted to watch the show, I'd be like, hey, I'm not the hugest fan of the show, but if you really insist on watching it, just skip the first season, man.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you liked it, and I'm not trying to dunk on you.
Yeah, no,
I'm just like, oh yeah, it's a cool and weird and interesting show.
Yes.
Yeah, I watch Digimon because it's colorful and everyone is happy, and there's no way I would ever watch a TV show about horror.
I've only more recently got into this stuff, within the last few years, but I'm kind of loving it. So
yeah, no, not for me.
That's fair.
But yeah, shall we get started, guys?
Yeah, here we freaking go.
Yeah.
So this is my second time to have to mention this, but yeah, should have given you guys a warning. The intro video is the same as the attract mode video. If you put the disc in and don't hit the button and think, I need to watch this because I just played Sailor Moon where the intro cutscene was important plot stuff. In this game, if you watch the intro, don't hit the button on the controller video, and then you start a new game, congratulations, you gotta watch the video again, dummy.
But now you can't skip it.
Yep.
Yes.
A lot of games, there are a number of games that do that, and games are never clear about telling you whether you are or are not able to do that. Metal Gear Solid's an interesting example. Metal Gear Solid's kind of like Sailor Moon in this way, where the opening cutscene, quote unquote, the thing that one would consider the opening cutscene, is basically split in two. The first half is the you just put in the disc, and the second half is the you just hit new game. Huh. So there are two halves of an important thing, and that's cool. You're not repeating anything, but it's also you might miss the first half.
Yeah.
But it's it literally picks up right where you left off, right once you hit new game, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. Eli, what do you think of that intro video? What do you think happened in that video?
I don't fucking know. Shit blew up, and I got nothing. I watched it 18 times, and I still was I don't understand what is going on. Stuff is exploding, and a guy's gonna die.
Well, not to worry, Eli. You will definitely understand in about 50 hours.
Okay, good, great. I look forward to 8 weeks from now.
And not at all until then. So, Sam, how about you give us a rundown of this cutscene?
Okay, so I watched it again this morning to get prepared for today. So what happens is this girl is speaking in universe and saying things that sound scientific over and over again.
Wait, you missed the very first thing. The dramatic opening text.
Oh yeah, I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. And I was just yes, Steven, there are many ways to say the same thing.
The way I thought about it was lots of books, start with an epigraph. That's the word, I couldn't remember it before. Epigraph. Which is here's an important quote by someone that's at the beginning of the book. And then Metal Gear Solid 5 opens with a relevant quote about like linguistics and stuff like that. It's like, here's a quote for the beginning of the thing, and Xenogears is like, nah, man, we're not going to quote like Stephen Hawking or Einstein or Sun Tzu. No, we're go big or go home. If you're going to have an opening epigraph, it's going to be literally God. I wish after the opening text, I wish it had been in quotes, and then at the bottom said dash God. God.
And then given a date. Yeah, I was gonna like 1998
citation. The Bible parentheses 1. Published whatever. Do a little MLA citation.
That would be
But
amazing.
we can't leave that out. So after that.
So after that you have the hey, we've seen Star Wars once ship flyby, and then this girl is like, the flux capacitors are at, oh no, they're at 11%. Like, she's angry but just saying mumbo jumbo because none of it's real. And and so like what she's describing and like where it cuts to, it sounds like there's some like electricity monster thing that's coming through, like either a rogue AI or something along those lines, because she's like, oh, the only way we can do it is if we blow up part of the ship. So she blows up part of the ship, and you see like that piece of the wall and all the wires on it just like bust out, and so then the electricity just jumps over the hole. So
yeah,
it's
I'm sure that fixed whatever was going on.
Yeah. And so
Sam, oh my gosh, I've played this game 2 times and been thinking about it since I was 13 freaking years old, and you describing the creature as an electricity monster just made me realize something about the plot that I never realized. that I'll be sharing in about 12 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not an electricity monster, but you calling it that
makes
was
everything
accidentally extremely insightful. So, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Okay,
dope.
Go on.
So she's like, oh no, we can't do it. And so meanwhile, the love child of Zangief and M. Bison, Captain, is sitting back in
True.
Is sitting in the back, and he's like, all right, well, shit's fucked. So everybody head to the escape pods. You have to evacuate right now, right this minute. And they're like, oh, but what about blah, blah, blah? And he's like, get to the escape pods. And so they all leave, and he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go down with the ship and do cool stuff. And so he's watching out the window. Oh, which, by the way, I forgot, before everyone leaves, the AI or whatever takes over all of the controls, and instead of it being sci-fi mumbo jumbo, it just says "you shall be as gods" over and over again. What I think is funny is they put in the English "you shall be as gods," but the screen's filled up in Japanese order from right to left. So it was like gods as be shall you, just across the whole screen, filling up. But and so he sends everybody out, and you see the escape pods launch off, and they're cool, like, it looks like UAV airplane style escape pods, and they're flying off, and then the AI is just like, nope, and takes over the guns and just shoots all of the people, and then giant, like, tentacles come out of the ship, and the captain's like, well, shit, and looks down at his locket. And you told me to not rewatch this cutscene because it'll accidentally spoil it, because you're supposed to see this before you play the game. So I'm not going to go into particulars of what I'm now spoiled on from the locket. But he looks at his locket, has his wife and kid in it, and he's like, well, damn. And then he closes it, and the ship explodes. And so then you see from the ground all this like wreckage of the ship everywhere. And then we have our requisite naked anime girl that you have to have at the beginning of every space opera, or it's not real. And and so she's there, and she stands up, and she looks up to the sky and sees all of the debris and shit falling through the atmosphere, and it's really pretty. And then it goes on to the actual start of the game.
There's a small continuity error with the locket bit where like the captain sets it down beside him, but then there's another angle where it shows the locket like really far away from him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ken pointed that out, and I'm like, yeah, that's weird. I'm sure that doesn't mean anything, but it's still like, I don't know, maybe it was meant to be dramatic or something. But
yeah, well, the thing is, so the anime cutscenes in this game, it's interesting. There's not a whole lot of them. There's maybe like 20 minutes or so in the whole game. And it's interesting because they're not... They're like not low budget, but they're certainly not high budget either. So it's like they look, well, no, they clearly are low budget, but they manage to look pretty freaking good anyway, and work like well enough. And I think they are probably just really happy to have. They're like, look, you know, this is an anime as fuck game. We're clearly inspired by the animes. Like, what if instead of, you know, Final Fantasy style CG cutscenes, we had actual anime cutscenes? And I'm sure they're really excited about it. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be some issues that you wouldn't see in like a more professionally produced actual anime.
It's okay. I mean, it doesn't ruin anything.
The CG parts are the parts that look weirdly good, actually, because you know that era anime always had all that's when they were first starting to introduce like cheesy CG stuff, like for Zoids or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the part that actually looks just as good, if not better, than a lot of the anime from the era.
I will say, like, I was not a PlayStation boy growing up, so to me, and like, I barely played N64, so to me, these graphics look like hot garbage, but they look way better hot garbage than like Final Fantasy VII. You know, I was still pretty impressed, and I liked the sprites were done in a more pixel art kind of style rather than just being blocky messes that you can't really discern any features on.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we go on to Eli, since you're here, my leitmotif alerts are even more relevant. Lot of recurring musical motifs in this game. But a lot of the time, the amount of time that goes in between a theme being introduced and then it being reintroduced is enough time that you forget. So you don't notice unless you're me and you listen to the soundtrack a whole bunch. But yeah, so this opening cutscene music, it's this nice melody where it's like do 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 do, all slow and dramatic. That's going to show up a long time later. That's sort of I think that motif is called the beginning and the end. So it's just the theme of large, god, spiritual, religious, epic shit. And then at the end, when the naked lady stands up, there's a different little melody, and that's going to appear a number of times. It definitely appears it's like Persona 3, where a lot of the themes were actually from the ending credits theme, but it's funny because you don't hear the ending credits theme until the end of the game, so you don't realize that they're recurring. Same thing. The ending credits theme of this game has like the chorus, the verse, and the bridge. All three of those different those melodies appear in other songs.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one. So now up to but funny thing, the that part at the end, not only is it an important dramatic theme, but it also appears in a town theme like halfway through the game, and I can't think of a symbolic reason why that happens, but it does. I'm thinking, why would that town have that theme in it? You'll find out. That's like halfway through the game. Okay, next musical alert. During this big lore dump, this nice little sort of Gaelic tune that plays is an important theme. It's basically the theme of one of the characters that shows up later. I don't get why it plays here. It probably is just because it sounds appropriate. Actually, I kind of get it, because this lore explains the conflict between these two nations, which is the main plot of the first portion of the game, which is exemplified by the character associated with that theme. So that would explain it. Also, sorry, one more thing, really huge thing. When I was giving my pitch for why this game is so important to me earlier, and the whole, last week, and the whole, fact that the same people made it, and all that philosophical stuff, I forgot a very important thing. Before he wrote the music for this game, Yasunori Mitsuda got really into Celtic music.
Okay.
But specifically, he got really into a specific Celtic music group. a specific a cappella Celtic music group that I forget the name of, and they were his number one inspiration for this soundtrack. And he actually really wanted to collaborate with them on this soundtrack, but he didn't get to. They're the people who sing the song in Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Oh my freaking god.
Wow.
20 fucking years later, he finally gets to actually make music with the same people who inspired his second ever soundtrack and one of the most beloved works. Isn't that amazing?
That's so cool.
So
That's
it really
awesome.
does just bring it all together. So yeah, like he's been into this Celtic shit since forever, and he finally like realized his dream after 20 years. So that's super cool.
That's super cool. That reminds me of Mark Hoppus from Blink-182. His number one influence is Robert Smith from The Cure. And on their, I should know the number by now, but like late studio album, it's their Untitled album, came out in the early 2000s. There's a song where he gets to sing with Robert Smith, and it's just one of those like coolest things. It's like, what if I sung like Robert Smith but over pop punk, and then 20 years later he's like, hey, Robert Smith, want to sing over my pop punk? And it's dope as shit.
That is so sweet. Yeah, I love that. That's the shit. Yeah, so lore time. There's a lot of it, but it's not too complicated really. You got two countries. You got the continent of Ignis, which is a continent and not a character in Final Fantasy 15. You got the Kislev country in the north and the Ave country in the south. They've been fighting for hundreds of years, which I think seems unrealistic, but that happens a lot in media. They've been fighting so long, no one remembers what they were fighting about, which means they don't have to explain what they're fighting about.
Not only does it happen too much in media, it's happened in all three of the Xeno games that I've played so far.
Wow.
It's in this one, it's in Xenoblade 1, and it's in Xenoblade 2.
It's a great way to have a more interesting situation than just everything's fine at the beginning of the story. So they're fighting, and it's just regular-ass, fantasy-ass fighting. Maybe they have guns, I don't know. But then this group called Ethos, which is very on-the-nose name, starts finding ancient technology in these ruins and repairing them. And the game says that Ethos is, quote, an institution that preserves our world's culture, which, spoiler alert, is a really weird way to say JRPG Catholics. They're not historians. They're literally, like, we meet them later. They're JRPG Catholics. This is a very strange way to describe them. Both of the countries are excavating the ruins. Ave and Kislev are both like digging up these big robots, and not just robots, by the way. It's not just the big humanoid robots. It's like all sorts of stuff, like big tanks and cannons. They excavate the ruins and they say, "Hey, Ethos, will you repair these?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure. This isn't unethical. No problem." So now everyone fights with giant robots.
It's not like our name is Ethos. We don't have to be ethical.
So now everyone fights with giant robots instead of on foot, like regular people. Kislev's ruins have better and more robots. They're just tripping ruins, so they're winning. But then this another unknown army, no one knows where they're from. They could be from another continent. They could be from space. They could be from underground. Called Gebler shows up, which is very intimidating name for an army. Gebler.
It just made me think of Full House.
Yeah, that's.
Oh my gosh! Yes, Kimmy
Gebler.
Kimmy Gebler. They're all just a bunch of Kimmys. Yeah. So I should have looked this up since we had an extra week to re-record this, but I'm pretty sure most of these weird-sounding names are related to Judaism and from either from the Torah or from like the darn it, what is it? Like Kabbalistic type stuff. And I don't know anything about that kind of stuff. I know that it's really a lot of people think it's really weird, but also really cool. Even people who don't, actually have any religious stake in it are just like, yeah, it's really interesting. So that's what I think a lot of these things are referencing that. So Gebler shows up and allies with Ave. So now Ave is kicking butt because Gebler is helping them, and they're about to win the war, which leads us to the small, quaint village of Lahan.
The lore dump specifically describes it because I was rewatching it earlier, and I thought this was cool. So it was like they were losing, so like they were evenly matched for hundreds of years. Then they were losing, and so Gebler was like, no, you can't lose. We'll make you even. And they're like, okay, cool. But what if we were winning instead? And so it was like they then began an invasion campaign and one by one took over territories. And I'm like, oh, okay, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. Got it.
Yep, exactly. So now we're at the village of Lahan, which is probably a reference to Lacan, which if you play the rest of the game, you'd understand would be a sensible thing to reference. Or Lahan is its own thing. It's in Ave, near the Kislev border. It's easy to forget that because you do have to go through a forest and a mountain range to get to Ave. But no, they're actually still in Ave. Doesn't really matter, though, because it's a small village. It's under attack, and there's fire and robots everywhere. Shit's going crazy. The camera pans over to a cool-looking robot, and the main character, who is this green... No, not green. He's not green. He wears white. Yeah. This white-color wearing boy named Faye. I think he says the word "damn" in the first line of dialogue. That way you know that this game.
Damn is the first line of the game.
That way you know this game is rated T, right? Because he says "damn," and you're like, oh, this ain't a Nintendo game. This is a PlayStation game.
Yeah, we're very mature.
Before we move on too much farther than it, I did want to highlight this first shot starts the cinematic quality of this game that carries all the way through it, and I don't know why I didn't instantly fall in love with it last week. Like at the end of last week, I said that I was neutral on this game, and that's not going to be my answer this week. But so right after you get to the lore dump, it shows like a anime-ish but pixely like landscape, and you see Lahan tucked away in there, and it's like, isn't this a quaint little village? It's out on the border and blah blah blah, and everything is fine, and then it catches on fire, and it's like, and this is where it all went down, or something like that. And it was just like, it was like cinematic and cool. Then it zooms in, and that's when we get to like the fire and stuff, and it's it does so much cinematic stuff with like 22 available pixels.
Yeah. When it comes to cinematography and visuals and stuff, I don't know if y'all are like this, but I'm certainly like this with movies, which is I always appreciate the non-narrative aspects of any work of media a lot more the second time through. Because the first time through, I'm just focused on what's happening. I'm worried about the characters, what's going on, and I'm too busy. My brain is too occupied thinking about the characters and the story that I'm not paying enough attention to everything else. And then, so if a movie is really good and really beautiful, and I watch it a second time, I don't even have to pay attention to that because I already know what happened. So I'm just looking at the screen, and then I'm just like, oh my God, just being like blown away. And I'm definitely feeling that way this time. My third time through the game, so I'm just appreciating all of the amazing things they do with this engine. The camera moves, the zooms, the composition, just the complexity of everything. There's so many things happening, and that's coming from the PlayStation era. You had to be very careful, right, with how much stuff you had on the screen at once, and with your staging. But you've got these big robots moving and fighting in this village that is 3D and very detailed. It's good shit, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with the quality of it.
Yeah, so like, Final Fantasy VI was the first Final Fantasy game to be like, what if the camera wasn't on the ceiling and we could like do stuff creatively? And so in the opera scene, they lower the camera down to the ground, and you see it like on a profile view, which is super cool. And they haven't done that. So then they move into Final Fantasy VII, and they try to do that a lot, but with pre-rendered graphics, you can't change like dynamically. You just can have different camera angles, but everything is on sticks, as it were.
Yeah, you can also do camera moves, but it has to be like these predetermined, like pre-rendered camera moves.
Yeah,
that are very expensive, I'd imagine, take up a lot of space on the disc.
And then they didn't have those in Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy VIII was the first time they did that. So this game was like, okay, that's really cool that y'all are moving the camera around, but what if instead of tripods we had a Steadicam, and so we're just gonna fucking move the camera constantly about all these different things, and it's like the camera is active in a way that like modern day video game cameras aren't even active. So it's like unique in its own way, and it's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is by far of the two, pre-rendered backgrounds and 3D characters versus pre-rendered versus sprite characters and 3D backgrounds. I much prefer this style. A lot of my favorite games use this style, although none of them do as much plot cinematically as this game. And I think this just goes to show, being able to move your camera around freely and just being able to explore environments and rotate the camera yourself, it adds so much, than just here's a pretty picture, run around it. Yeah. Not to disparage FF8 and 9, which have some amazing pretty pictures that you can run around in. But yeah, it's just it's a trade-off, and I think it's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a green guy down on the ground, looking kind of silly, and he looks kind of like...
Yeah, he's just going...
He looks kind of like Yakutsuki.
He does a little bit. Is this foreshadowing?
He's got the same hair as Yakutsuki, but what if it was a good haircut instead of a bad haircut?
Yeah.
And he's like, Faye, stop, you can't fight here. And that's just kind of it. It's just Faye's like, I gotta beat him. And he's like, stop fighting. And he's like, damn, hell. And then there's kind of a long shot of the city just being in flames. And then it has a smash cut to some different flames, and you're like, what? And then it zooms out, and how cute. It's actually a painting of flames, and it is now the previous day, and our boy Faye is a painter, and he is simply painting a picture of the flames. Is he a troubled lad inside? Are the flames from his past? Is it in his soul? Or is it a premonition of the future? Is that why he's painting flames? Who knows? That's not.
Or maybe he just likes painting fire.
That's not a plot point, by the way.
Maybe he's just really edgy and likes to paint fire. Like I was in middle school. I made.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the explanation.
This superhero.
The other
cat
paintings are like a pastoral.
Yeah, one of my first art projects was this superhero cat that was just on fire, and I think it was just because I wanted to draw a cat on fire, and so I said that it's okay because it's alive.
Nice. Yeah, so we now enter. A lot of RPGs have the whole at the beginning of the game nothing important happens because your village is going to get destroyed later. But this game might have the lowest stakes of any opening of an RPG because it's not even he doesn't even have a task. He's just I'm a painter, and he's like, well, time to take a break from painting. Yeah. And then you get to control Faye and walk around. Eli, did you walk to the other room and get the true Xenogears experience from the first NPC?
Oh, I didn't know that there was experience.
No, not experience points. I mean, did you talk to the first NPC in this building?
I can't remember if I talked to them.
The one who gives you 20 lines of dialogue and a flashback.
Oh, I must say, okay, I missed that one. I did get the 200 gold out of my bed, the 2 aqua souls out of the barrels, and the spider web up in the corner.
I didn't get any of that shit.
I must have missed the spider web.
Yeah, you have to jump up to grab it, but
nice.
There's a very Ken and I were playing. We're potentially recording it, but there's still technical difficulties with the emulator. But when I was playing it on my own, I had pointed out that there was a spider web up in the corner, and Ken was like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And then on a whim, I was just wonder if I can grab that. So I jumped up and I was able to grab it, and now I have a spider web. I don't fucking know what it does, but I have it.
I think you just sell it. I think this game kind of has this thing where enemies will drop items, and sometimes the items have a minor effect, but other times it's just sell this for money, that kind of thing. I don't know. It'll have flavor text and tell you what it does, probably.
I was a good RPG boy and talked to most of the NPCs, though, which, I was telling Sam, I'm both impressed and annoyed at this, because...
Yeah,
they put
sensation.
Yeah, they put a lot of work into fleshing out these NPCs. They absolutely there's a ton of dialogue. That's what I'm annoyed about. There's a ton of dialogue. I miss the NPCs that just go, "I like potatoes," and that's it. It's cool and all, but man, it takes a lot of time to talk to all those NPCs. Yeah. Of course, a bunch of them gave me shit, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, they reward you. Did either of y'all go to talk to the NPCs in the bar?
Yes.
That's the most impressive, man. That's where that game's scripting engine really blew me away, because it's if you talk to one of the NPCs, it ends up being a scene that involves 3 different NPCs, and they all have their blocking, and they all have their dialogue boxes appearing in different parts of the screen at the same time, like theing each other.
Yeah.
And it's just like this whole fucking scene plays out in front of you. And it's like, again, their scripting engine must have just been so advanced and so flexible that they could do shit like this. It's so cool.
It was really cool, but I was also like, when will this end?
Yeah, totally.
I also like that the game really rewards you for giving correct answers. So, like, the guy who's like, I'm just going to keep drinking my troubles away, and you can tell him, yeah, man, go, 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 or no, you shouldn't be drinking, and then the last one is like, you can't, like, that's not going to solve your problems, or something like that. And, like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but you choose that one and he gives you an item. But if you choose the other two, like, that's the wrong thing. It's not going to help you.
Oh, that is good. Faye's a goody good boy. I feel like in some ways that might be like rewarding the player for being a good person, but I feel like it's also kind of rewarding the play. I think that's establishing Faye's character. Like, this is the canon answer, actually. This is what Faye would do, because he's not a silent protagonist, which is cool. Anyway, Faye's got a typical JRPG backstory. His dad, his probably dad, don't want to spoil, person who's probably, but like, let's be serious, it's his dad, dropped him off at the village 3 years ago, and the dad was all beaten up and bruised, and the kid was like beaten up and bruised and almost like dead, and the dad was like, here, have a kid, and then he left. And also Faye has amnesia, because of course he does. Doesn't remember his past, but then every single NPC is like, I can't believe it's been 3 years. And I'm like, why are y'all all talking about this? Like, I can't believe it's been 3 years, but we all took you in and we all just love you like you're one of us. And I'm like, you don't have to keep saying I'm not actually one of you. Like, keep bringing that up. It's like, that's a little rough. It's like if a parent is like, their adopted kid, they're like, we just love you. It's almost like you're not even adopted.
Yeah. It's almost like you're a real kid. Like, gee, thanks, Mom. Like, can you maybe take me back to the orphanage now? Like, I would like parents that didn't keep reminding me about this.
Another musical alert, the B part of this song where the fake synth chorus comes in, also a very important motif that shows up multiple times throughout the game. Yeah, so Eli, what's the actual important thing that's happening in this town besides it just being a random ass day?
There's a wedding. There's two people named Timothy and Alice, and they're gonna get married. And Alice's ugly little brother is really unhappy with it.
And I was like, wow, that's so mean. No, she's not.
Is ugly.
Oh no, Alice is like possessive. Her hideous little brother is very upset about
Eli,
this.
have you seen The Room?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. The brother reminds you so much of Denny.
Oh.
Right?
Oh my god, you're right. Yes.
He totally is fucking Denny, because he's like, I just like to watch you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a little creep.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So Alice and Timmy are getting married, and it's like they keep going with the whole thing. It's like, oh, Faye, you and Alice and Timothy have been friends forever, or at least since 3 years ago, and I can't believe they're finally getting married. And Faye, when are you gonna get married? And like, half the NPCs are like, when are you gonna get married to a nice girl?
When you gonna bring a nice girl home?
Yeah, and then half the NPCs are like, Faye, aren't you a little upset that Timothy's marrying Alice instead of you marrying Alice? And I'm like, dude, Alice isn't just some like
fucking straight people, man.
This whole town is extremely straight people. Yeah, we were bitching about it last time. Like. Look, I get it. Marriage is important, but like, it's like every single person in the town, the only thing they ever talk about is whether or not a boy will eventually marry the one girl, or whether or not the girl will eventually marry the one boy, and whether the boy is going to go on an adventure, and whether the girl is going to cook and wash clothing or not.
Yeah,
and that's like what everyone talks about.
Is Alice the only eligible woman in that village? Like, apparently that's the only one that they think Faye should end up with. I don't know.
No. You know how it is, because they only have they only have a couple of sprites in this game. They have beautiful young woman and old lady, and that's because as soon as you get married, you turn into the old lady sprite.
That is how it works in real life. I've seen my sister. I know how it
like
goes.
That, and Alice will switch to that other sprite in a year, and then she'll just be no different than all the other women who are just hanging out over at the wash basin or whatever, because that's how things work in this town, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so Timothy is like, Faye, I love you. I can't believe we've been friends. We'll be friends forever, right? Which, like...
That's not ominous.
Like, don't
say that.
Not just in JRPGs, but even in real life, man. Like, when something important is... It's okay, after something important happens, you can say we'll be friends forever. But when you're on the eve of something important happening, don't be like, man, I sure hope nothing bad happens. Like, come on, man. Yeah,
we're gonna be friends forever, right? No, we're gonna be friends forever. Oh God.
Denny from the room shows up and he's like, I need to talk with Faye, my friend, about something important. And Timothy's like, you want to just talk about it here? And Denny's like, fuck off, Timothy.
Yeah. He might as well have just said that. I mean, it is a T-rated game, so
he clearly hates Timothy so fucking much. So you leave, and Denny runs off and asks you to come talk to him, and I went and explored the town for like an hour. Eli, did you play rock, paper, scissors?
Oh my God, I hate that guy. So I found out there's this thing called the RPS badge that you could get from him if you won 5 times in a row. I got to 3, and then I was like, okay, I'm at 3. I'm going to go save. Like, I'm going to game the system. I'm going to go save. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to win 2 more times and that's going to be it. Like, or I'm going to win another time and then I'll go save again and then I'll come back and I'll just keep reloading until I win. No, it starts you all the fucking way over.
Yeah, it's got to be 5 times in a row. There is a trick to it. Not a trick. Like, people have reverse engineered the algorithm by which the game does its RNG, and there are a few strategies you can do where instead of it taking you like an hour, it'll take you like
half an hour.
Minutes.
Well, I looked at those and I tried it and I still couldn't. I apparently just couldn't wrap my head around it, and I eventually was just like, "Fuck it, I'm ahead of the game. I've just made like $150. I'm leaving. Fuck you guys."
Yeah, well, I'm a stupid idiot, and I will never not be one. So I did get the RPS badge. So yeah, I'll tell y'all what. You end up getting a special item way later in the game, and maybe it'll be awesome, or maybe it won't be. We'll find out.
Great.
Yeah, so you talk with, what's his ass, Denny, and he's just like, I hate Timothy. I can't believe Alice is getting married. Faye, you should kidnap Alice, and you should marry her, because I'd rather you be my big brother. Oh, yeah, Denny is, Dan is Alice's little brother. And he's like, Faye, you should marry her. Come on, man, she's great. She can cook. She can do the laundry, and she's got big tits.
Yeah, like I was like, was that necessary?
Eli, did you say yes? I'm going to kidnap Alice, or did you say no? I'm not going to kidnap someone?
I said no. Fuck that shit. I'm not doing that.
I did too, but RPG site said yes. I'm going to do it. So there's a bright light at the end of the ancestral tunnel that Danny is taking us down right now.
Okay, great.
But, so you're like, all right, let's go right now. Let's kidnap her. And he's like, man, as much as I want you guys to get together, like we have to take in consideration their feelings and all of that stuff, and they're the ones that are trying to get married. So maybe we should just respect that.
So he does come around.
Yeah, Danny was just bullshitting you. Okay.
Yeah, he was just bullshitting you, but he had to do it with talking about his sister's tits, which is the worst part.
Yeah.
And even if you pick no, like canonically, he does come around later in an important cutscene. But yeah, he's a stupid kid and he's super ugly.
I'm just imagining like meeting my brother-in-law for the first time and like telling him like, yeah, you should get together with my sister. She got tiggle bitties.
Yeah, like, oh my God. I had not until just now imagined me saying myself that about like my sister. And I'm like, that is just, oh my God.
Oh,
why
no.
Say that? Oh my God.
Like I've had friends tell me how hot my sister is. And I'm like, don't say that to me, please. Don't tell me those things. Just keep that to yourself.
I feel like I'm comfortable enough with my sister as her own, as like a person apart from just being my sister, that if someone else was like, your sister's hot, and they weren't being gross about it, they were just like being like, you know, she's really pretty, I'd probably be like, yeah, she is, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say it.
Yeah. I mean, and I will agree with them. I'll be like, yeah, my sister is attractive. Can you not word it like that?
yeah, it's true. Don't be like, ooga.
Yeah.
Whistling like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you go and you talk with Alice, and they have a tender little moment with Faye where they give each other furtive glances. And she's like, "Hey, I asked Dan to go to Saitan's house and get a camera so we can have photography at our wedding." And Faye's immediately like, "Dude, that's a bad idea. Do you really trust Dan with that delicate equipment? He's an idiot. He's gonna break that shit." And Alice is like, "You're right. You should go get it, actually." And that's pretty much it. And then they have a little bit of... Yeah.
Dan would die if he went up that mountain path.
Yeah, seriously. And they also have that typical, like, friendship thing where they're like, "Do you ever wonder if things could have been different?" And I think that Alice is feeling that way. I feel like Faye is kind of oblivious. Alice is like, if things could have been different, you and I could have ended up together. And Faye's just like, huh?
Yeah.
You're marrying my best friend Timothy. Everything's fine from my point of view.
Right.
At least that's how I read it. I read the emotion is 100% on Alice's part. Because, in a tropey sort of super straight people work of media, every female character has to have a crush on the male main character.
Oh, of course.
Completely unearned, just every single one. Not a single one doesn't. And that is going to continue happening.
Because it's escapist fantasy, and the real boys who make these games have never ever had anyone like them.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's actually interesting. I don't know if I shared. Yeah, I think I shared this. This game is written by I forget his first name, but Takahashi-san and his wife. So. I mean, it's still super heteronormative, but at least it's not. At least you can't accuse it of just being super misogynistic because it's written by a sexist dude. Because I think it was like 40% or something written by his wife. They're collaborators and they love each other, which is sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, you go up the mountain and you get your first taste of this game's battle system.
Fei Fong Guang is climbing the mountain. Why is he climbing the mountain?
He wants to make love to the mountain. And the mountain wants to make love to him because he's the main character. The mountain's a girl, by the way. Eli, what do you think of this? What do you think of this battle system? Oh no, I'm saying because this game's being. So must be a girl, right?
It's an overly straight game. Yes, the mountain must be a girl. Although I do appreciate that NPC that Sam was talking about during the Sailor Moon episode, who talks about I wish I was born a man. That was cool. Anyway, I didn't get the battle system at first. It just seemed like your typical turn-based, but then I realized I could do other things. And so I just started hitting buttons randomly, and it kept honking at me. It was like, no, wrong button! Fuck you!
Oh, yeah. Most of those menu options are grayed out because you can't actually do them yet, so that's why it was honking.
Yeah, well, it would I would use an attack, and then he would sit there like he was waiting for me to do something else, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll press another button, and so I would hit X, and it would be like, no! And I would hit square, no! And then I would hit triangle, and it was like, okay, you can do that.
So you didn't go to the house where they tell you how to play the game then, huh?
I went to the house and I talked to the guy just so he'd give me an item, and then I went on my merry way. I was like, all right, I got a thing. I'm leaving.
Yeah, so the way it is you have a light, medium, and strong attack, and they use up 1, 2, and 3 action points. And the reason it was honking at you was because you had already used up 2 of your action points, and you were trying to use a strong attack, which uses 3, and it's like, no.
And I did figure that out finally.
Okay.
It just took me a little while. I catch on eventually. I can just jump into a game and figure things out over time. Mm-hmm. This just took me a little bit longer.
Yeah. This game is
also it's not like anything that has ever been done before. So
it also has kind of a Bravely Default system where if you don't use up all of your AP, so you know how you said that he just sits there. Well, if you want to, you could use a single light attack and then hit circle, the cancel button in most games,
Oh, okay.
End your attack. And if you do that, the 2 action points you didn't use are banked. And you can use those for special attacks later.
That's nice.
And one weird thing is you don't have any of those yet, so you can't actually do anything. But an NPC does explain that. And so you use those for your specials. And one thing I really like about this game actually that's really cool. I like games that don't tell you how much health your enemies have. In this game, the enemy will not die until you finish your attack sequence. But but he might have actually been dead after the first hit. So if you know the enemy only has 10 HP, or 6 HP, you can go in, do a light attack that does 10. Now he's technically dead, but he's not going to show his death animation. So instead of using up all your AP, you hit circle to end your attack.
Okay.
Then the enemy dies, and you bank that AP. But the game doesn't tell you that. So if you're not paying attention to the enemy's health, you'll just use all your AP every turn, right? But if you know he's low on health, you're like, okay, well, just one little quick jab, and now he's done. Which I think is cool that they don't give you an indication, like, hey, you can stop attacking now.
Yeah, that's
right?
really cool.
So one thing, I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, but yeah, you can pay attention to how much health enemies have. It doesn't matter now, but like get into the habit of it, right? So I just thought it was fun. I think it's fun killing enemies with the least amount of AP possible, like, yeah, why use all three? I can just use one.
I was realizing, like, eventually, like, oh, okay, the circle attack is enough to kill a jackal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was doing some of that, but I didn't know about canceling it out.
Yeah, when he's just sitting there waiting, you just hit circle, and he's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
So you climb up the mountain. You have to do a jump. Eli, did you make the jump on your second try?
Yes, it took me 2 tries.
No one makes it on their first try, but I was hoping you would at least get it on your second, because it's really not that bad.
Wait until we get to the forest, buddy.
Oh, I saw your comments about it.
Oh my god. All right, continue. So I won't get salty yet.
So you get up to Saitan's house, and there's some really beautiful music. It's just like the most like idyllic, everything is fine, nothing bad is happening music imaginable.
Nothing bad will possibly happen when you leave this place in 5 minutes.
Yeah. And there's a house that's this beautiful like stonework that's really interesting to jump around. And then there's Saitan's wife, who is appropriately for this game cooking dinner. While her husband is literally just fucking around in the workshop with his hobbies while she does all the work. Mm-hmm. And she's like, hey, Faye, he's back there. So you go back there to the workshop, and there's a cute little fake out where there's like a dramatic musical sting, and then there's a big explosion. And I'm thinking, oh, is this it? Is this the inciting incident? Is it finally happening? But no. Saitan just fucks something up inside the workshop because he's an idiot. So then Saitan is up on top of the workshop.
An idiot with a medical degree, apparently.
Yeah, except he's like, hey, I'm a doctor, a village doctor who lives his whole life. His point of his life is to make sure that these village people are happy and healthy. You know where I'm going to live? On top of a mountain on the other side of a dungeon with monsters in it.
And so the cynic in you is like, well, obviously that's to add gameplay. It's not like this in the real world that is this game, except for you talk to an NPC in the town and he's like, man, I'm really sick, but I don't want to climb this scary ass mountain to go to the doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll tell Eli what I told Sam last time. There is a plot twist involving Saitan way later. Mm-hmm. And that plot twist, I can't remember it well enough to know if it does or does not explain why he lives on top of a fucking mountain instead of in the village, but I think it might. Okay. So this game is sometimes dumb, but sometimes it's not dumb. So we'll see if that actually ends up making sense later. Yeah, so he's like, hey, Faye, come back in a second. It's just kind of weird. So you go and explore, and you go into the...
No, he tells you to go inside. You don't even get to walk around. It brings you inside.
Oh, really? I thought he says you should go inside, but you don't have to. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, he's like, I found this cool-ass shit. Go look at it. It's inside the shop underneath me. So.
Okay. Yeah, so you go and you look in the thing, and there's a really interesting scene. There is a large, angel, extremely Judeo-Christian, cherubim type angel statue, and actually it's just a box. You click on the box and the box opens, and it's a music box. So there's an angel, and it's like the size of face, like a person-sized angel, and it's rotating. And as it rotates, the game's music box theme plays. That's a common JRPG trope. It's especially a Mitsuda trope, actually. Mitsuda loves the music box theme. This game has 2 of them, not just one, because why would you just have one? So one of the game's music box themes, which is an important musical theme for the game, rotates, and also there's disco ball lighting everywhere. Mm-hmm. And Faye's like, whoa, this song is conjuring up feelings. Mr. Saitan, I don't feel so good. And yeah, so Oh, and if you know, the B part of this music box music is the same as the end of the intro cutscene with the naked lady. That's the same.
Okay. I missed that.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason you wouldn't miss it. So anyway, so the doc shows up, and he's like, "Hey, Faye, how do you like this weird artifact?" And Faye's like, "It makes me feel funny." And the doc pretty much just says, what he says is like, "That's because there's another person inside you who remembers this song." He's basically just like, "Oh yeah, that's because of your past lives."
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're a medical doctor, and you're just like, "Oh yeah, past lives, that's a thing that I 100% believe in, and I'm just going to throw out there like it's not even a big thing."
Yeah, totally.
And Faye's like, "Oh, okay,
I'm a man of
cool.
science. You have someone else inside of your body."
You know, maybe Saitan wants to be that someone else. But you know what? Faye is like 15, so never mind. Yeah, so then Faye leaves, and Saitan says mysteriously, he's like, ... Maybe it would be better to live a normal life as a son of man. And I'm like, that's what Jesus called himself. So Saitan is clearly not a regular guy for something. And then the thing shakes, and the whole thing just shatters into a zillion pieces. And Saitan's like, "Is this an omen?"
Well, that's a thing. Time to have dinner.
Yep. Yeah, he's like, "Well, I'm sure it's fine." And you have dinner at nighttime, and the lighting is different, because this game has a lighting engine, and it's cool, and there's like cicada noises, and it's really moody, and I like it.
Yeah,
it was neat.
Anybody have any predictions what the hell is going on yet with all this foreshadowing?
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. Bad stuff.
Yeah. So this is not. Okay, we want to place bets here on if I already said there was a twist later, but I didn't say what kind of twist. Saitan looks kind of like Ikutsuki. Is he going to be good later or bad?
I have a feeling that he's going to be good, but he's going to be like a different kind of good. Like it's going to be like fake out good, where it's like, oh, we think he's going to be like the doctor good and he helps us, but he's going to turn out to be like working for Ethos, but he's actually going to be like the underground resistance member of Ethos that is like, no, like we need to stop the war, not fight the war or whatever. That's
a 2 times plot twist combo, Bob.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. He'll be some sort of like chaotic good agent or something. I don't know. It's something will definitely happen.
Yep, definitely.
I admit I'm not good at predictions.
That's how this whole part of the game is. Like, you don't know anything that's going on, but just every line of dialogue is like, "Hey, guess what? Something's gonna happen later." Wink, wink.
Yeah, well, when he keeps going like, "It would be nice to live as the son of man," I'm just like, okay.
Cool.
Yeah, moving on. Yep,
Go
dinner
off,
time.
I guess.
Yeah.
So then you just start to head back. Oh, so Faye's like, "Well, time to get back to the town. Where's that camera I came here to get?" And then Saitan repeats almost verbatim what you said earlier, where he's like, "Faye."
Oh, no. It is verbatim. I was watching it earlier. It's like I don't because earlier for Danny, you're like, "I don't know if I feel comfortable with letting you handle this sensitive equipment," and then Saitan is like, "I don't feel comfortable letting you handle this sensitive equipment,"
which shows that Saitan definitely sees you as a dipshit, the same way you see Dan as a dipshit. So Saitan's like, "It's chill, dude. I'll just come to the wedding tomorrow and bring the camera." And I'm like, man, this really could have all been resolved with like a carrier pigeon.
Yeah.
Or a telegraph service. Now it's nighttime, and you just...
Real quick. Sorry. Our favorite boy just entered our channel. Do we want to bring him into this, or...
Surprise! I'm here.
Surprise! It's our favorite boy.
Hooray! Our son! He's made
Our son
it.
has come home.
Hi, Dads.
Hi. It's good to have you. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Spiff. I just...
Oh, no, it's fine. Sometimes a family is 3 dads and a pirate son.
Yes. We're very proud because he's doing what he loves.
And this is our first podcast guest, everybody. We did it. We're official.
We've finally made the grade. We're good enough to have a guest.
And the papers want to know whose shirt you wear.
But yeah, to catch you up where we are, we just left Saitan's, and we're about to be walking in the creepy dark of the canyon on our way back to our perfectly normal, everything is going to be fine wedding.
Uh-oh.
Oh, for those who don't know who our son is, this is Matt Jorgensen.
Oh, yeah.
He's awesome. He has an RPG, what is it, like a blog? Or, I'm sorry, I'm totally...
It's just a Twitter.
He does a thing. I know, I admit I don't have time to pay attention to things. But he's awesome and we love him.
Yeah.
And I feel like a jerk
still there?
now. I'm such an asshole.
Matt, are you still there?
Oh no.
Did we lose you already?
Our son, he's
still
dead. Oh god.
We killed him.
He died
died because I didn't.
About his vlog or something.
Are you back, Matt?
We hear something.
Are you?
Okay, something is wrong.
Is he in the car?
With you? I'm sorry.
Oh god. Oh god.
One of these
days.
Neither of y'all.
I haven't played enough Earthbound. Don't spoil it for me.
Yeah, I think
One of these
something
days.
exploded, and that's just the remnants of the explosion sound.
Yeah. One of these days, I'm gonna fight Guy. Guess.
And he's gone.
And he's back.
And he's back.
Oh.
Are you are you alive, or are you a wind beast?
This is the start of a horror movie, guys. He sounds.
Yeah, like the mysterious person shows up on your podcast and it's just like...
Yeah.
The phone will ring and there will be...
I can hear myself when he holds the button down or whatever he's doing.
Yeah. I can't hear you at all, Matt.
Yeah.
It's not working.
We love you, son, but nothing works.
I'm sorry, Matt. I think we need to move on because whatever is happening is not working.
We'll bring you back next time.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Well, that was a fun diversion.
Well, good effort, everybody.
We tried.
We tried.
A for effort. Yeah, so you head back to the town and it's robots.
Fuck, it's robots.
Finally. Yeah, the robots that we knew were coming finally have come.
Took them long enough.
Saitan's like, shit, there's robots. He does that thing from most JRPGs where the NPC runs off screen, and as soon as he's off screen, you can now control your character, and the NPC is nowhere to be found. They've been erased from the game's memory. Except that doesn't actually happen. The sprite of Saitan actually runs all the way down the mountain. I just really appreciate
that's cool.
that. It's great. They actually scripted him running all the way. Oh, he runs really fast. You can't keep up.
Something I was playing this week. Oh, Persona 5 does that as well. When you're in Spoilers Palace, the good one, I'll put it that way. You're talking to them, and they're like, "Well, follow me," and they go around a corner, and so you run around the corner and you see them way off in the distance, like rounding another corner, and you probably could follow them all the way, except there's bad guys that will stop you.
I appreciate that Saitan is too fast for you to keep up with, because there's sometimes when games do that and the NPC is really slow.
Yeah.
Like, why? I made it. I'm here 10 minutes before you.
Yeah. I just realized he's also too fast for you to keep up with in the game's battle system. He gets so many fucking...
Oh, yeah.
He's super fast.
He's insane. Later, you get a super slow character, and he attacks like 2.5 times for every one time the slow character attacks. That slow character. Anyway, you get to the town, and there's robots, and they're fighting each other. Saitan, mysteriously, like he is, seems to kind of know what's going on. Instead of being like, "Oh shit, robots," he's like, it's the robots.
I've been expecting you. Welcome, robots.
Yeah, that's kind of how he acts. Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, robots." So Denny is missing. Most of the people in the town evacuated, or they're in the process of evacuating. But Timothy and Alice are both like, "We got to get Denny." And Saitan is like, "Timothy, you got to take Alice and get out of here because you're the man, and your number one job is to protect the woman. So you have to
And
get
also,
out of
if you
here.
don't listen to me right now, you're going to fucking die. So literally just leave.
Yeah.
just fucking leave. And Faye is like, don't worry, I'll definitely find Dan, and I definitely for sure won't let anything bad happen to him. I promise.
And to be fair,
and I'm like,
that portion of his promise, Faye keeps. He does find Dan, and he does keep Dan safe.
Yeah. Dan actually does not die. So,
I was surprised about that, but I was also like, he's a child, and most video games shy away from killing children. So, I kind of figured he'd survive. But he's also an ugly child, so I was like, I don't know, he might die.
Yeah.
He looks like a small old man.
He's young Pennywise, is what he is.
Oh, God. Oh, man. You'll float too.
Earlier in the game, Timothy was the one who said, we'll always be friends, not Faye. So Timothy jinxed it, but so far Faye's promise has come true. So if only, instead of promising I'll definitely protect Dan, if only Faye had promised I'll definitely protect Dan and also not destroy the entire town. If only he had promised that, it wouldn't have happened. So anyway, you go to try to find Denny, and it turns out Denny did have a bit of a face turn at the end. The reason he hadn't left the town, no, he actually did evacuate, but then he came back because he just couldn't let his sister's wedding dress be destroyed in the flames. So he came back to rescue his sister's wedding dress because he really does care about his sister and her wants and needs, and supports the wedding, even though he would never admit it to anybody else. Because he's a sweetie, even though he sucks. Like a lot of kids, frankly. So then he leaves, and then the robots are all fighting, and we were talking last time, me and Sam, about how, like, in Gundam, you have, like, the important robots that are clearly took a very long time to draw and design and look amazing. And then there's like the Mook robots, which just look like Nazi tanks turned into robots. And they're just like, gunmetal gray and just like bulky and boring. This game does the same thing. And the funny thing is that the Mook robots in this game look like identical to the Mook robots in Gundam. They're like, why would we spend time making up a new kind of robot? These robots are going to be there for 2 seconds. They're not important. Let's just fucking put them in the game already. So there's a bunch of Mook robots, and all of a sudden, though, there's a dramatic anime cutscene where the pilot of the important-looking robot gets shot and falls out of the robot. So now this important-looking robot now has an empty cockpit, and Faye has something weird going on with his head. There's some weird cutaways to like a what do you call it, a crucifix swinging back and forth, and he's just like, I gotta get in the robot.
So what happens is the pilot getting killed was actually a sprite. Like, the important part was the sprite,
right.
And then the anime part is all just the cerebral stuff. So Faye's like freaking out because he's getting shot at, and he looks over at it, and he doesn't see that it's empty. He sees what we find out in the next cutscene is him as a little boy in the cockpit, like looking through his hair like an emo kid and laughing, and that is what makes Faye jump over. The crucifix stuff is still there; it's still like super cerebral. But I noticed that, holy shit, that's baby Faye. That's Faby is in the cockpit. Is in the cockpit.
Yeah. So Faye has a demon inside of him that is himself as an emo child.
That was what Saitan was talking about.
His emo self forces him to do things like go to Warped Tour when he really shouldn't be going to Warped Tour. That's what that's what happens when you have an emo child inside.
Never have an emo child inside of you in any sense.
So he gets in the robot, and that's when we catch back up with the flashback. Saitan's like, stop fighting with the robot, and Faye's like, but I wanna. And you get a brief intro to the game's robo fighting system, though not a very deep intro. It's just like press the buttons to hit the monster, and
especially because it's like, be careful, you only have 1,200 units of fuel, and every time you attack you use 10, and it's like, okay, well, this battle's not going to take me 120 turns.
If you're wondering why the fuel thing seems so unimportant, it's because it's actually the most interesting part of the game's whole battle system. Later in the game, your fuel has to last an entire dungeon.
Oh, shit.
which is what's fucking cool
Yeah.
about it, right? Like you get fuel at the beginning of the game. It's kind of like MP, except if you run out of MP, well, you just can't use magic. If you run out of fuel, you can't move. So managing your fuel, but if it's only one plot battle, then it's kind of stupid. So you kick these robots' ass, and more of them show up, and you kick their ass, and it does that thing where he's like, huff, 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 huff. There's too many of them. Not like I'm killing them all in one hit or anything.
And I still have 1,000 fuel left.
Yep, they've done no damage to me. So then Timothy shows up. Timothy didn't stay away from the stupid village. Timothy comes back looking
because he's
Denny,
gonna be friends forever with Faye.
Yep. And what happens? Timothy gets shot and dies, and it's very bloody. And when Timothy gets shot and dies and it's bloody, Faye freaks the fuck out, and there's more weird imagery, and a big like Dragon Ball Z style energy blast comes out of him, and he like Watchmen style obliterates everyone and everything. And Timothy and Alice literally like disintegrate into nothingness.
And the way they do it is my favorite way that animes used to deal with this, where like it just goes into line work, and then they have a freeze frame, and they like smile, and then the line work disappears, and it's like, they got totally fucking owned.
Like that's like you didn't die, you got spiritually annihilated. You got real dead. So then Faye wakes up, and it's the next morning, and he's on a hill, and there's some really beautiful cinematography. There's a nice little shot where him and all the characters are in the foreground, and in the background, just looming, is this robot just standing there. And everyone's like, "You did this! You destroyed the village! My leg! My leg! My leg! It hurt." That's what they're all saying. They're all saying, "This sucks. You destroyed the village." And he's like,
"I did not hit her. I did not.
I did not destroy the village. It's bullshit." But he did.
Yeah.
And Saitan is basically like, "Hey man, I know that wasn't really your fault," because Saitan totally knows why what happened, even though you don't. He's like, "But these are all a bunch of bumpkins, and like, I think you should just like."
Yeah,
and also all these villagers who were earlier saying, "You're just like one of us." They're like, "You're the outsider. This is your fault. We never should have let you in the village."
They turn on you so fast.
And so there's a thing that they do in this in the scene that like requires A, the kid to be cute, and B, you to give a shit about the kid like personally. Where Dan does like. He comes up to you all angry, has special angry sprites where you can tell he's crying. And he's like, "Murderer, my sister, give me back my sister. I hate you." Which, like, have you seen Hardball with Keanu Reeves?
No, I have not.
I have not seen it, even though it's a Keanu Reeves film.
Yeah, it's a Keanu Reeves. It owns. It's my go-to, like, it's the Brian song of this generation. So, like, all the bros watch it, and all the bros say that they didn't cry in Hardball, but every bro cried in Hardball.
Nice.
So in Hardball, Keanu Reeves is like, he takes over this like inner city little league team to like teach the kids how to live properly through baseball or whatever. If any one of those kids would have been like, "You killed my sister, I hate you," it would have like hurt me. But that's because that movie is about the relationship with these kids, not just the kid that was like, "Look at my sister's tits. By the way, I hate you." It doesn't land.
So you're supposed to feel the sense of you're supposed to feel the weight of this relationship being broken. But
I'll be honest. I'm half expecting to meet up with older Dan wearing his sister's wedding gown and vowing to murder you later on.
So what?
Honestly, I don't remember. I mean, the fact that he doesn't die, I think, means he probably shows up later, but I don't actually remember.
If they wanted a throwaway character to end the prologue of this game of, you no longer are this boy in this town, you are now on a quest, Alice should have survived and said this about Timothy. And that would have hurt. That would have been earned. That would have been really fucking good. But...
Well, I don't know. I do like it being the kid, even if it's not actually done well. I think they chose the proper character. I think they just could have better.
I think,
especially if he grows up later.
If he grows up later, that's definitely part of it that could be cool. If if we cared more about Dan, it would be fine. But I'm just saying, like, the game prior to this point, as it is, like, no changes. You could plop in Alice, and the scene would have, like, made me feel things instead of just been like, I wish I could mash text in this game. So that I could just go to the forest dungeon.
Instead of feeling betrayed, you're like, fuck so you leave. And I like how even at this point, the game doesn't really have any sort of, like, plot. Like you don't leave to go on a quest. You just leave because you can't stay here. So they're like, I guess I'll go to Ave. So you go through the forest, and you get to a forest dungeon. The music is beautiful. It's very well rendered and complex and interesting. But according to Eli, it's got some jumps.
I watched it earlier today. I still don't know what jumps you're talking about that were so hard.
Maybe, I don't know.
After the save point, there's like two.
So first off, I was talking to Sam. And up until this point, I was like, yeah, I'm enjoying this game more than I expected. I'm really invested in these characters. And I get to this forest. I'm like, I don't fucking know where to go. And I am not good at navigating in 3D space. Like, there are some games where, like Breath of the Wild, as an example. I know it's a modern game, so it doesn't really, like, I can't really compare the two. But, like, Breath of the Wild, I'm decent at navigating that, but I'm also, like, okay with just getting lost there because I can teleport around, whatever. It's fine. And there's stuff to explore. Whereas I'm trying to get through this forest dungeon. The encounter rate is incredibly high, and I have to jump around in certain spots if I want to get items or if I want to get to the save point. There's a part where you have to jump up some rocks at, like, the very beginning of the dungeon. And maybe it was just to get an item. I thought that I had to jump up there to actually progress.
There's one where you jump around the roots of a tree, but that's just glorified stairs to get to the first save point. And then there might have been others the rest of it. I just don't remember the rest of them. And if they happened in this Let's Play, I'm not saying they're not there. I just don't, like, I missed them again. So I still can't feel your pain for you.
Well, I was trying to explore. I was trying to be a good RPG boy and explore. And there's, like, these rocks that you have to jump up, and they are practically impossible to jump up to get onto this big log where you can go get an aqua soul. And I, like, eventually I got it, but I was like, this was not worth the effort.
One healing items like a fucking...
Well, and then I got to the point where there's the save, and then there's a log with a rock on it, and there's a hobgoblin there. And I thought that I had to jump onto that log, and I kept missing the jump over and over and over, and it was just like I had to run back all the way to that tree where I jump up to the save point, and I had to go back, and I just, like, over and over, and I was tearing my hair out. And then I finally beat that hobgoblin. I finally get on the log, and the rock starts rolling after me. I'm like, I have to jump down again. Fuck you, game.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And the rock is. I think those rocks you were talking about earlier. I think you were going up the wrong.
Yeah, it was to get an item.
No, yeah, I remember that item. I think there's a different way.
Probably, but that was the way that I looked at a guide with a map, and I'm like, okay, and the map turned out to be wrong later on. I'm like, wow, this was a fucking waste of time. And that forest is dark and confusing, and I just
Yeah, I do feel your pain on it being dark and confusing. I walked out the front of the dungeon onto the wrong side of the world map about 15 times. So I'm like, I found this new place, and now that the log is all teeter-tottery, I can get up here, and then I just followed I was on the other side of the log, and now I'm outside. Let me go do this whole fucking dungeon again.
One thing I do like is that when you do the whole thing where you move the rock, which that rock that rolls Indiana Jones out is blocking the way to the next area, so you have to do that and then go past it. I accidentally exited the forest after that point, and I do like that the game's
that's good.
I went back into the forest, and it's like, it's still the rock's still gone. So the good news is, good and bad news depending on who you are. Most of the dungeons in this game are like hallways, and I mean, like, literally, like, you're in a government facility, and
it did make me miss Hallway Simulator. So
Yeah, so
Wait, hold
the good
the
news
phone.
is there's a lot of
Eli,
poly
did you just
simulators
say-
in this game, but there's also a couple dungeons.
Eli, did you just say you missed Rogue Galaxy?
Only a little. Only a little.
Only a little, yeah. There's precisely one dungeon in this game that is going to make Eli just want to absolutely
good.
die.
Maybe by that time you'll be playing it with Ken, and you can just be like, "Here, take this fucking
Yeah,
controller."
you do this.
It's at least 20 hours into the game.
I have something to look forward to.
So you do this forest, and right after you do that part with the boulder, the game does a really cool thing where you're walking out basically to the edge of an area, but instead of fading to black, it just smash cuts to an anime scene. Not even loading. It's just like you're playing the game 1 second, and anime scenes happening the next second. And I don't think I've ever seen that, even from more advanced games. It's cool. And luckily, you don't skip anime scenes by hitting any buttons.
Even if you're doing something,
that's
you
good
won't
because that's good. Well, that's good because if you were in the middle of playing the game, you would have just accidentally hit a button and skipped the scene, right? So in this anime scene, there's a mysterious lady wearing some military outfit and has red hair, and she's talking in German. And then she's like, "Wait, I should be speaking in English. I mean, I should be speaking in Japanese.
I should be speaking in Lambden or whatever.
Lambden,
Lamb, yeah. And she's like, "Don't move." And she points a gun at Faye. And then she's like, and that's the whole cutscene. And then it goes back to in-game, and she's still pointing the gun. And she's like, "No, you're not one of the Kislev soldiers who are after me." And I'm like, great infosec.
Yeah.
Definitely not spilling state secrets. You just like explained who you are and who's after you to a random person.
I'm sure that won't have any consequences whatsoever.
She keeps pointing the gun at him, and she's like, "I have orders to kill all surface dwellers, lambs I come into contact with." And the game keeps doing that, where it puts these little long dashes in between important terms, and it's just funny. She keeps calling him a lamb, and it's not until the third time that he even reacts. Like, she calls him a lamb, and he's just like, cool. And she calls him a lamb again, he's just like, awesome. And then the third time she calls him a lamb, she's like, wait, what's with this lamb thing?
What did you just call me?
It's like, this is obviously an important term and not just like a throwaway thing. You're going to have to explain it if you keep talking to me like this.
Yeah. The way that it's written, it sounds like it's like the N-word. It's like she says surface dweller, and then she stops and she says lambs, and then she continues on with her sentence. Like, that's what it sounds like with hard R.
Yeah.
With a hard B. Lamba.
So then she's like, "I'm gonna shoot you," and he's like, "Fine, fucking do it. I have nothing to live for." And then she does it. She shoots him, and apparently she misses, and he's just like, "You missed, idiot. Shoot me right here in my heart." And she's like, "What is wrong with you?" And then a monster attacks her.
It's apparently a wood elf, the woodland creatures from Skyrim.
A quote-unquote wood elf attacks her, which is clearly like a fuck-up mutant zombie. And Faye dramatically goes, "Keep your hands off Ellie!" And I'm like, "Whoa, dude, y'all just met." Maybe the person inside of you knows this is Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
So you fight the wood elf. And there's a campfire scene. And what happens here? Pretty much just they chat, and they're like, "You're mysterious," and he's like, "No, you're mysterious, right?" Like,
yeah.
Oh, right, and they talk more about how he wants to die. He's like, "I have nothing to fucking live for. Just kill me already." Oh, but then he's like, "Hey, he's like, look, I'm not trying to be weird. I'm not doing an irony. I actually don't care if you kill me. But hey, maybe we should get out of this forest first because we're kind of lost." And she's like, "Okay."
And then he's also like, so like, it's dangerous to travel the forest at night. Also, we know that like the animals come and track sound, so I don't want you to have to die when you kill me. So let's get out of the forest so that you can kill me with your gun in my face. So we'll be happy.
Yeah, he's like, if you shoot you, it'll attract monsters. And at one point he's like, "Why are you so scared?" And she's like, "I'm not scared. You're just a really mysterious surface dweller." And he's like, "Nah, you're way more mysterious," he says to the character who is literally titled Mysterious Woman. At that point, I think they do exchange their names.
Finally does.
He's like, "I'm Fei Fong Wong," and she's like, "I'm Elheim I don't think she says her last
No,
name yet.
she doesn't.
Although it's Elheim Van Houten.
Wow.
And yeah, she's like, I'm Elheim, most people call me Ellie, and I think because it was in a surge of passion earlier, Faye does not remember that he called her Ellie earlier, so that goes uncommented on.
He comments on it and goes, Ellie, huh? Somehow I already knew that. He says it right there.
Oh,
Yep.
Never mind then. Yeah, so this game doesn't leave things uncommented on.
It really doesn't.
So next there's a mysterious dream.
Cue these next few scenes. This game really doesn't let anything go on nuanced.
Yeah.
Baby, you get some Lynchian shit here. You got baby Faye, aka Faby, in a desert, and there's these weird humanoid figures trudging along in single file, and he chases after them like, don't leave me here in the desert. And they don't look like humans to me. They look like
wood elves.
Fucked up.
Yeah.
Wood elves, yeah. But he still wants them to not leave him, even though they're freaky. But they do leave him, even though they're walking pretty slow. And he's sitting in the desert crying. And then a lady who looks kind of like Ellie. I say that as a joke. It's definitely Ellie. You can't really tell because she's like in shadow, like anime style, where her front of her face is like black because I guess her hair is casting a shadow over her face. But she has the same ass haircut, but her hair is a different color, I think. And she is dressed like a nun, and she has a crucifix. And she holds out her hand, and she's like, "You must be lonely." And that's it. And that's presumably from Faye's past. So then Faye wakes up, and it's kind of funny. You wake up, and you're in a new area in the dungeon, and there's no cutscene at all. It's just like you wake up, and then you have control of Faye, and you continue.
Yeah, I think Ellie has like one thing where she's just like good morning, and then she walks behind you, and I thought that was like blocking for a cutscene, and I sat there for like 10 seconds. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, yeah. I guess I'm playing.
It's not even like good morning, let's go. It's just like good morning,
yeah.
And then you're in control.
I thought it was an interesting choice that the NPC walks behind you instead of getting absorbed into you like in most other RPGs.
Yep. That's also a Takahashi thing. Chrono Trigger does that. Chrono Cross. Every game in this sort of lineage has the characters fall behind
Chrono Cross
you.
doesn't do that. You have 40 fucking party members. You don't have 40 people falling behind you.
No, the three that are with you.
I don't remember them falling behind you.
Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger, Xenoblade, all the other ones definitely have them falling behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me...
Maybe not Chrono. Maybe they couldn't get it working.
Yeah.
For me, it made me think of Earthbound. Because that's the oldest game I've played where I've seen that done.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like it when games do that for sure. Even though if you like run in a little circle and all the characters follow you and also run in a little circle, it looks good.
The first game I ever played with it was Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest 2, technically. And a friend had it on Game Boy, and he's like, "Hey, here, play this game. It's super awesome." And the first thing I did was walk around in a tight circle so that everybody was like walking all over on top of themselves. And I'm like, good talk. Here you go.
Oh yeah, I can't believe I'm the biggest Dragon Quest stan here, and I forgot to mention that. Yeah, the Dragon Quest games have been pulling your party members actually exist and follow you shtick since 1987. So yeah,
great.
Good job, Dragon Quest. So you go through the second half of the dungeon. Nothing interesting happens plot-wise. It's just more dungeon. Ellie's in your party now. Her attacks are really cool looking. She whacks people with a police baton, so she's a cop, which... when her idle animation is her, like, bouncing on her heels, or bouncing on the balls of her feet, and her boobs go up and down a little bit because it's a video game.
Original jiggle physics.
Now we exactly. So you're going through the dungeon, and once again, it just goes into a cutscene. Not an anime cutscene, just a regular cutscene. Where they just start talking in the middle of the dungeon. And she's just like, "Faye, what's up with you?" or something like that. And he tells his story in a bit too much detail, considering we just saw it happen. But he tells his story about how he's from the village, and she's like, "That village, ... And then he's like, and then the robots are called gears, by the way. So he's like, and then these gears showed up, and she's like, "That gear, ... like very clearly knowing what he's talking about. And then there's a flashback showing, and then finally, so after he tells his side of the story, and she reacts like she knows what's going on, there's a flashback showing that yes, indeed, she does know what's going on. From her, it retells the story from her point of view. she was one of the people in one of those robots. She is an Ave soldier, and she and the other Ave soldiers stole the cool-looking gear from Kislev, and Kislev didn't like that, so they got shot down over Lahan. I think after she got shut down, she must have just left and run into the forest before everything bad happened.
It shows her running away, and then the schmuck robots, 2 of them land and start to like fire at her gear, and she runs away to save herself from that.
Yeah, which is yeah. So she doesn't tell him this, of course. This is just her from her point of view. So then Faye is like, this is all their fault. If they hadn't come to this village, this never would have happened, which, is pretty reasonable thing to say. But then Ellie is like, no, you're a coward. You have to admit that it was your fault. You have to take responsibility for the bad thing that you did, which, like, not 100% reasonable, but also, like, no. I mean, the enemy armies fighting definitely are the more direct cause.
Yeah.
So she's being a total asshole here. But then he backs down. He's like, you're right. I'm a coward. I suck ass. I'm the worst. Ugh, I hate myself. Then he like punches a tree, which is funny because he's a sprite and the tree is a 3D object, but it still looks like he's punching
it does this really cool thing. So like we mentioned this on the one that we scrapped, and I forgot to mention it here. But the dialogue is like directed as if it had voice acting, even though it doesn't. So like the reason it takes forever to get through the text boxes was a choice, because he's like, I want it to sound like a person talking as you read it to yourself in your head. So for the most of the game, it really doesn't matter. There's a period there I'm going to pause in my head anyways. But here it was really cool because he punches the tree 3 times right as he says like damn or
he's
there or
them.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
right as he does it.
He's so mad at them.
It's so good. Like this part right here makes me appreciate the choice of not letting me press X to complete my dialogue. But
yeah. And because here you're not just waiting for an NPC to talk. It's like it's got everything. It's got blocking. It's got camera. So yeah, it's really working. And you can basically like if you put voice acting in, you wouldn't have to change the timing at all because there's already all those pauses. So then he sits down and is all sulking, and there's some really gorgeous blocking here. Ellie takes like a single step towards him, and then she stops, and then she takes a step back away from him, and then she stops, and then she turns very tentatively and just slowly starts to walk away, and then she more quickly and directly just walks off screen because she doesn't know how to deal with this. And then she's thinking to herself, gosh, why was I such an ass just now? Why was I telling him he's a coward?
And we get her anime flashback.
Yeah, then there's an anime cutscene where it cuts between 2 different things. It cuts between the argument they just had, like all the dialogue we just read. It's an anime cutscene of them saying those things, of him saying, I'm a coward, and her saying, you're a coward and you take responsibility. It intercuts that with some scene, which is probably from her past, where she's in a sci-fi hallway, and everything is bloody, and everyone's dead. And she's covered in blood, and it's really bad. And she's holding her head, like, in her hands, like, oh God, oh God. And we don't get any more information about that, but we know that she did something bad happened, and she feels bad about it. Which makes me, who's played the game already, be like, oh, right. She's telling him he's a coward because she's really telling herself that she's a coward because of her shit. But the game doesn't let you infer that because they explain it in the next
you could infer it by like her diction and tone of voice in the last cutscene. You can infer it with like intercut here on this cutscene, and next cutscene she tells Saitan, I said all of those things because I felt bad about myself.
I did also want to say about this anime cutscene, I think the translation could have been a bit better because there were too many mouth flaps for the words that were being said. And so there were a bunch of times where their mouth is going up and down and they're saying nothing. Yeah. And I'm just like, that could have been improved.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Especially for like animes of the time and stuff. Like ADR is a art that people have only recently kind of been good at, and it was real bad. It's like, so seeing this definitely reminded me of like watching Outlaw Star and Cowboy Bebop, where like it happens a lot at the time.
Yeah, and even as a kid, when I didn't like pick up on things, like it's so egregious in this game that like I still remember a lot of parts from later in the game where as a kid I was just like, oh my god, how long are their mouths going to flap?
Yeah.
So that's that. And then you just kind of can continue on. No, actually, right after that, I think another monster.
No, this is where the T-Rex happens. So she goes and she has the anime flashback, and you don't even get to control Faye until she looks up, and there's a dinosaur like, oh, hey, I'm going to eat you, by the way. And so she screams, and that calls Faye from his mope to come run over.
So for the second time in one dungeon, you have to save the female character from a monster.
You have a farm boy who is a plot point that there's no way that you should be any good at fighting, has to save the multiple years general in some army from monsters.
Military
it's because she's a girl.
Exactly, definitely is. Well, there's a little bit more than that, but yeah, basically. I think the writers, it's one of those things where the writers explain it, but the reason it is that way at all is because she's a girl. So you fight it, and you're fighting a T-Rex, which is a 3D modeled T-Rex, which most of the enemies in this game are sprites, just like you are. So your little sprite is running up to the T-Rex and punching it, and it's doing 1 damage. Funny enough, when he attacked me, he also did 1 damage, because I was really overleveled. So the game's doing this whole, like, I can't beat him, he's too strong. But I'm like, he's only doing 1 damage.
I could do a war of attrition with this guy.
So because of how this boss fights out, I thought that this would be a you can't lose fight. Like, it would make sense because like halfway through, Saitan shows up with your gear. That's what happens. But because of that, I'm like, oh, you probably can't lose, but that's okay. I was never in any danger of losing. But RPG Site's Let's Play that I was watching to refresh myself before we started, they died in like turn 2 against this T-Rex and had to reload a save like on their Let's Play. I'm just like,
and watch like a zillion fucking
so many cutscenes, and I was like, oh shit.
That's especially funny because like the battle's not hard
at all.
No, I was just like, I looked at a guide because I was like, this looks terrifying. I'm just gonna see what this boss is like, and it's like, just use defend and maybe heal if you need to. So I just used defend a whole bunch of turns, and the T-Rex didn't even attack me after the first one.
Yeah, like Saitan shows up in like 3 turns. Like, how are you going to die in 3 turns?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah, so we keep mentioning Saitan. So what happens is you're fighting the T-Rex and you're not doing any damage against it, or you're doing very little damage. And then, all of a sudden there's a cutscene that happens during the battle scene. The battle scenes all take place in 3D environments, so they can be directed as cutscenes. Just like, like again, FF6 started the whole idea of like, what if the battle screen could be a way of storytelling. This game does that. From off screen, Saitan. The robot thingy Saitan was working on earlier in the game was like a big, like crab, like a robot crab. So apparently he got the robot crab working, and it's like a helicopter and it can fly. And its crab legs are holding the big robot. The big one. And Saitan is just like, hey Faye,
use this, fight this.
I thought maybe you might need this robot. And Faye's like, that robot just traumatized me because I killed my entire village with it. It ruined my life. I'm gonna have PTSD for the rest of my life because of this fucking robot. And Saitan's like, yeah, but how else are you gonna beat the T-Rex? And Faye's like, okay, I guess I will, because he's a good heroic boy who would never let someone get killed by a T-Rex. So he says, hey Saitan, if I start to go crazy again, like I'm gonna destroy everything, you need to shoot me and kill me. And Saitan doesn't even say yes. He's just like, let's hope it doesn't come to that. Which is like, I don't know, it's hilarious. So you fight the T-Rex. It's not a hard battle. You beat it. And then after that, they're like, well, we went through a small, like, one-screen dungeon and fought a T-Rex. That's enough for the day. Time to go camping again. This forest needed 2, not 1, nighttime campfire scenes. I guess after Chrono Trigger's campfire scene, which is the pivotal scene of the game and one of the most important scenes in the history of Japanese role-playing games, they figured, well, we should just have more campfire scenes in games.
That's what'll make our games better.
Y'all haven't played Chrono Trigger, right?
No, Eli hasn't.
So
we need to somehow get Eli through Chrono Trigger so we can play Radical Dreamers and Chrono Cross.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, if you look at like the concept art of the game, one of the most known concept arts of Chrono Trigger is all the characters around a campfire. The funny thing is that is simultaneously the pivotal scene of the entire game thematically, and like the game that has the game's the scene that contains the game's primary ideas and poignancy. It is also optional.
Wow.
Which is interesting. Yeah, it is that scene happens at the end of an optional late game side quest.
Weird.
Which is it speaks to one of the weird things about the game. But yeah, it's a beautiful scene.
Squaresoft then decided, well, instead of making it optional, we're going to make it about 12 hours long and be the best part of Final Fantasy VII, because it's still great in Final Fantasy VII, but it's like freakishly long. And I remember the campfire scene in Cosmo Canyon. Yeah, it's super duper long, but also still super duper good.
Yeah, that part's great. I just like when the characters hang out, man.
I just love when characters hang out. Like, just hanging out is so much cooler than punching monsters.
Exactly. So anyway, in the second hangout scene, Faye's asleep. So Saitan and Ellie are both chatting, and they get to have secret like mom and dad talk while the kid's asleep because they know all the secret plot shit. and Saitan's like, so you Ellie, you're secretly one of them, huh? And Ellie's like, yeah, you're also one of them, right? And Saitan's like, yeah, definitely. And Saitan's like, you know what's going on, and Ellie's like, you know what's going on.
What I think is cool here is Saitan knows that Faye is faking being asleep. So yeah, because when he's like, oh, so you know about blah 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 blah, and then he switches over to talking in fake German, and is like, that was your robot in the village, right? And she goes, yeah, it was, responding back in German. So then they continued their talk in English. It was like, I don't want Faye to wake up right now and kill you, so I'm going to ask this in German just in case.
Yeah. So they basically just commiserate on their mutual understanding of the plot. And
don't decide to loop us, the viewers, in.
Yeah, which I like, you know, and at least they're not doing the whole, like, are you her with capital H, like, ... And anyway, yeah, so Faye's asleep for this whole thing, or is he? And then Saitan does allude to a few interesting plot points. He alludes to the idea that, I forget how this is alluded to, but, like, Ellie, maybe the reason she sucks is not just because she's a girl, but, yeah, she's a military officer, but she actually is, like, a fuck up, and she might also be like really bougie, like she might be the John McCain where she's not good at anything, she's not good at flying airplanes or fighting, but her daddy is in the army and keeps letting him fly the fucking planes, even though he always crashes them. So that's basically what's happening with Ellie there, which is sort of vaguely alluded to. Her dad is maybe like the you know, some high-ranking politician or something, and maybe they even put her in the army to, like, give her something to do, almost, you know, like a nepotism kind of position.
She won't go drinking and partying if she's in the army, so it'll be fine.
Yeah,
she
exactly.
won't turn into space Paris Hilton.
Yeah. And maybe she was also in the army to run away from her troubles, you know, from whatever the fuck bad thing had happened. So, and then Satan's like, look, you really should leave. You should just go home to your family. Like, you're not from here. And then she's like, I gotta say goodbye to Faye. And he's like, you should just leave now. And she leaves. And then they go back to sleep. And I'm sure Satan says something else ominous there.
I actually was looking something up, so I can tell you if he says anything ominous.
Yeah, tell me.
No, he says, you had better go now. She stands up, and she walks away, and looks back at Faye, which is cool. And then she walks away completely. And it just fades to black.
Nice. Okay, we're done with Satan's ominous thing. So then Faye wakes up, And I forgot to skip one thing. Earlier in that scene when they're talking, they're commiserating. Saitan asks, "Does Faye know about you?" And Ellie's like, "No, he doesn't know anything." And the way Saitan responds is he's like, "Yeah, he's been in this village his whole life. He doesn't know much of the outside world." But the way he says it, it totally reads to me like, yeah, he's a dumbass. Yeah, and then they also talk a little bit about power, whether or not they have this gear. They're like, this gear is too powerful. Does one really need the power to destroy everything? And then someone's like, well, power can be used for good or for bad. And they're like, maybe it can.
The answer is no. You do not need the power to destroy everything.
Yeah, no, you don't need nukes, which is what these robots are. So then Faye wakes up and he's like, "So Ellie's gone, huh?" And Saitan's like, "Wait, you heard that? You were awake?" And Faye's like, "Only for part of it." And what I like how he doesn't say how much he was awake for. He just says, "I was only awake for part of it." So we don't know exactly how much Faye knows, though we know it's between nothing and everything, and not the part that was in German. And then they're like, "All right, let's leave," and you exit the forest dungeon. One final cutscene.
I was about to say, like, no, you don't get to leave it yet. There's one more cutscene.
Yeah, one final cutscene because this dungeon is just full of cutscenes. It's like 2 screens of dungeon and 6 cutscenes.
So like in RPGs, including the next one that we play, Legend of Dragoon, the first dungeon is a forest. It's that way in Final Fantasy IX as well. Like you have to go through the forest to start your quest. Every other one, nothing happens, and you just walk through and go on your merry way to your actual quest.
Yeah.
This one, they're like, no, what if we put all of the plot that is supposed to happen over the entire first disc in this fucking dungeon?
Yep. So as you're leaving, the camera like pans up and you see a really huge fucking warship like overhead, and they're like, "Oh, that's an Ave warship. Things are really heating up militaristically." Saitan drops a few things like the reason why Gebler is helping Ave do war might be just because they want to get all the mysterious ruins. The foreign imperialist army is helping one small desert nation fight another small desert nation because they want to extract natural resources from that desert nation, which is something that's never happened in his life.
Definitely not in the past 2 decades, at least.
No, certainly not.
So I would say it's prescient, but I mean, there was also the Gulf War. But yeah, it's kind of interesting thinking about 1998. It's like something happened, and then it happened even more later. And I think that's pretty much it. And they're like, well, let's go to Ave. Oh, yeah, and then Saitan's like, let's go to Ave, and let's go to the next city in Ave, which is called Yggdrasil, and let's see, like, what's going on. So Saitan's like, we're heroes. We're going to see what the bad guys are up to. But Faye's like, I thought I was just going there because I was exiled.
Yeah.
I had nowhere else to go. So you're just kind of like wandering at this point. But you exit the forest and you immediately save. Or if you're Eli, you go to Yggdrasil and then you save.
But that's
I didn't know I could save out in the world.
Yeah, you can save on the world map.
Oh yeah, it's Final Fantasy rules. Save on the world map.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Well, good to know.
And thankfully, unlike Final Fantasy, it gives you save points pretty frequently. Final Fantasy is like, well, you can just save on the world map. So, like, you'll go an entire dungeon with no save points sometimes.
Yeah.
And then you die on that final boss, and you realize that because the world map doesn't scream, hey, save here, you haven't saved in, like, 8 hours, and then you're Sam Allman, and you're in 9th grade, and you stop playing your favorite Final Fantasy for 4 or 5 years because you have to go and redo everything because you didn't save.
I've always felt like save on world map was loose design. It's like, you can't just have like, hey, you can save in general here if you want to. Like, that's weird because it's not like the world map is a safe place. The world map is a danger field. There's bad guys. It's. I've always thought that was a weird and dumb design decision. And yeah, like you said, it doesn't scream save. Like, if you see a glowing save point, you're gonna save. But if you just go to the world map because you left one town or go to another town, you're not gonna remember like, I should save. I don't know. It's weird, but yeah, that's how this game is. One little tip I want to share with y'all. This game has a anime vocal theme.
Ooh.
It has 2. One is the ending theme that plays during the ending credits, but it's got a second one. The second one was supposed to play at the beginning of the game. I think in between the opening anime cutscene and the lore dump. And it was like they had an anime cutscene that was like, you know how sometimes anime movies, like Your Name or whatever, the opening credits is like the same as the opening credits of like a show where it's like just just a montage of scenes, while the song plays. They made one of those for this game, just classic 3-minute long anime opener. But they didn't put it because they were like, with the actual plot opening plus the opening theme song opening plus the lore dump, that's too much cutscene.
Makes sense.
So we're just gonna cut this because apparently this game did have an editor, which you wouldn't think from the rest of the game. But the problem is you never get to hear this song through the whole game.
Congratulations, you can hear it right now.
It's the world map theme. So that world map theme, if you run the world map, that is an instrumental of the vocal theme. So it's called, what is it called? It's not called Small 2 of Pieces. That's the ending theme.
Small 2 of Pieces?
I mean, that's sort of one way to translate it, right? It's called Two Wings.
2 Wings.
So if you feel like listening to it, every time you hear the world map theme, if you want to hear what song that actually is, the song that if it had not been edited out you would have heard, listen to the song Two Wings. There's a Japanese and English version.
Wow.
The English version has astronomically cheesy lyrics. I don't know if the Japanese version has cheesy lyrics because I don't speak Japanese. But the plus side of the English version, even though the lyrics are cheesy, I am in love with the English vocalist. I think she's incredible. So, beautiful vocals, cheesy lyrics, pick your poison. But the Japanese version is great too. So yeah, give that a listen if you're interested. That's not like a spoiler. It's like that you should have heard that already, right? So I don't think it'd be weird to go ahead and listen to that. And the singer is Joanne Hogg, who is some kind of Celtic Gaelic singer from like Ireland or something, who was known at the time. So yeah, cool little fun fact there.
But yeah, that was it for the week. Eli, besides jumping, how do you like it so far?
It's interesting. I'm getting more invested in the characters. I don't know. I think it has potential. Good. So we'll see what happens. I'm usually not into giant robots, but that's okay. If the rest of the plot is good, then
do these giant robots still hit the I was into Big O for 5 seconds until I realized the O stood for robot. Are those feelings present right now, and you're going to work through them, or is it different enough?
I'll work through them.
Okay.
Like this is a bit of a spoiler, but the one giant robot manga anime thing that I've ever been able to get into, Magic Knight Rayearth, and that's because it's like fantasy world, and then robots show up. And this is kind of giving me similar vibes where it's like, okay, I can see this as like a fantasy world that just also happens to incorporate giant robots.
Yeah.
That's very much how it is. Yeah, like aside from the robots, it's very much just typical like feudalistic, just agrarian fantasy shit.
It feels more like Magitech in Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah. Totally.
Which, speaking of this game and Final Fantasy VI in particular, I love the weird, not exactly fantasy, but not exactly like medieval and not exactly modern, just that is JRPG settings. Because like you have like computers and spaceships, but you also have like stone huts and crops and stuff, and it's just like basically someone was like, you know what, I really love Lord of the Rings, but I also love Star Trek. What if both?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'm more and more into that as I get older, I think. And I mean, like Final Fantasy 14 does that, and World of Warcraft kind of does that as well. And so, like, and I'm really into both of those worlds, so it's definitely something that I've been getting more and more into, is the Final Fantasy or Lord of the Rings meets Star Trek kind of stuff.
Which I just realized, I don't think... I'll probably eat these words in 15 weeks when we play it, but I don't think Legend of Dragoon does that. I think Legend of Dragoon manages to be like just straight up medieval fantasy, which is super rare for turn of the century JRPGs.
Yeah. It didn't get carried away and put everything
and then halfway through giant robots. What? I don't remember these.
Yeah, in this game, Xenogears does the thing that Final Fantasy VII and other games also do, which is silly though, where it's like some characters fight with fists. Later there will be a character that fights with a sword. But there's also a character that just like has a gun. And because this is a JRPG battle system and the characters have to be balanced, the character with the shotgun, like shooting someone in the face with a shotgun, does not do significantly more damage than
well,
them.
that's World of Warcraft rules. If you play a hunter, your bow or your crossbow is going to do just as much damage as a gun does.
Meanwhile, like actual guns, like seeing like there, you have movie guns and TV guns, then you have like actual guns. Like seeing like an actual like gunshot or anything like that, like scars you. Like it is like ridiculously overpowered damage going on, and it does 17 damage, and your special punch can do 25.
Hot take from RPG Book Club: guns are OP. Real life, it's OP.
They should be nerfed.
They need to be nerfed. They need to be patched out.
I would love if guns were patched out.
Yeah.
Government, please nerf.
Which is funny because you just now used nerf as the meme nerf, but actually in its original context. Because nerf guns are just where it comes from. We closed the loop.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, it all
we now can send this meme back in time to kill itself. We close the loop.
The meme killed its own dad, and now it will never
I got the Looper reference.
Which is a Xenogears reference. Well, it's a mythology reference, but also that's it for the week.
So I do have to change my tune from the episode that you guys didn't hear, so it sounds like I'm not changing my tune. But upon watching this, I think it was just a combination of, like, I was playing it downstairs with Scarlett and Summer and Rizzo. We're all, like, downstairs hanging out when I was playing it. But I was, like wishing I was mashing text through some things, which, like, some cutscenes, like, especially the 3 times combo bob that we had with Ellie and Saitan earlier.
Yeah.
But, like, some of those need to be mashed through, but for the most part, like, the writing is really, really good. It's really, like, interesting, and while it feels homey, like because I've started so many JRPGs in my entire life, it feels like the beginning of a JRPG. It actually hasn't done anything except for the first town is either going to banish you, get blown up, or both. Except for doing that, it really hasn't done anything like tropey-ish so far. Like, it's all been like fresh and like interesting takes on all the stuff so far, and I really enjoy it, and I'm excited that I finally get to go back and play some more. I'm here.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'll get out for a second, but I think I heard.
Yeah, I've finished talking. So it was one of those things where like you finish talking and then no one responds. And they're like, "Have I just been like talking to myself forever?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So a little bit of explanation for next week. So we're going to be playing to. So the way that the chapters work in this game is you see the name of the chapter when you save. Just like in Rogue Galaxy. And the chapters go by real fast. Like, we just played through 6 chapters. I think there might even be entire chapters where you don't have a chance to save, so you wouldn't even see the name of the chapter. But yeah, so it's like, a cut scene where you talk with someone might be a chapter, right? So anyway, what we're going to do next is we're going to play through a relatively large part of the game. I don't think it's too big. If it is, I'll amend the instructions, and I'll let everybody know.
Surprise, it was too long. So what we actually ended up playing was the through the next dungeon. So you will go through this cave, and then you'll come out of the cave, and you'll be on this giant sand ship called the Yggdrasil, and save the first chance you get on the sand ship, and you'll do it. You get on 2 sand ships. One of them crashes. The other one does not crash. The one that does not crash is where we saved and stopped for next week.
Yeah, so if you like what you hear and you want to help us cover hosting costs and game costs, you can find us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/RPGBookClub. If you just want to chat, we got a Twitter @RPGBookClub, email rpgbookclub@gmail.com, and of course, our Discord, which is the best, and our best bud, our son, who popped in for 5 seconds earlier, is on there. There's not a catchy URL. You'll find a link in the description to the Discord. So once again, join us next week where we will play
till we save on the sand ship.
For RPG Book Club, I have been Michael Spiffle-Webben.
I have been Sam Allman.
And I've been Elias Sailor Eli Warren.
Toodaloo!
Alpha and Omega. See you guys.